My name's Chris. That silence. That silence is Christy. Christy's lost her voice, unfortunately, which is why we've been so slack on catching up with the podcast. So rather than give you the washing up solo style, I've gone out and decided to get a friend of the show. And what better friend of the show, ladies and gentlemen, than Beck Pobjie. Beck, how you going?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I can speak.
Christy. I'm Christy. I felt like saying I'm Christy, but I'm not Christy.
No. It's a void in our lives. It's a void in our heart.
Oh, it's such a void.
Although just briefly on that, thank you to everybody who gave us a lot of positive messages on the whole engagement thing.
Wait, what?
What? You missed that. We got engaged on Wednesday. So,
oh my God, congratulations.
This shows how busy you've
I've been living under a rock.
This shows how busy you've been. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to everyone who gave us some really positive messages. We really
congratulations.
Thank you very much. So with that revelation now made on the podcast, to Beck,
who apparently doesn't know.
Now, just quickly, what we're going to be doing is we will, for those of us waiting for the final edition of Raywatch, it's coming. I'm not going to allow Christy to miss out on the joy that is Raywatch, and boy, do we have a recap for you. So it's coming. It'll be out of sequence, but we're going to do a special edition Raywatch finale. So keep tuned for that. I may break out some Hasselhoff songs. Who knows? The answer is me. I know, and yes, I'm breaking out Hasselhoff. So what we're going to focus on today is we're going to look at Heston Week. We're going to have a look at Heston.
Yay. My favourite week.
Yes, and may I say in particular that Ben has been on fire with his Heston Week tweets.
He hates him.
Yeah,
he hates him so much.
We had the same tweet at the same time on night one where he got off the bus, which was, what you haven't been told yet is you're cooking with the bus. That's the ingredient. There's nothing else. It's just bus. And I like the fact as well that they seem to have themed this week off, the 70s band Earth, Wind and Fire. It's a thing of beauty. Nice. I would say it was Captain Planet, but there's no heart. There's Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, but there's no heart. Although I don't know if you want them cooking with heart, especially not with the way that George was carrying on tonight.
No.
It may have been a live beating heart. It may have been that scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with the beating heart. Yeah, it might have been that. So previously on Master Chief,
his hat was too small. Maybe that was his problem.
Oh, the hats have been something else. We'll come to the hats.
That's all we need to say about that.
Oh, no. I've got more. Trust me on this. So let's go through it. So previously, Sarah and Diana found themselves in elimination. Diana, of course, falling victim to the mystery box curse.
Yes.
I don't know how everybody does that. And this is why I said that the superpower, I'm calling it the superpower, that Carly got with the pin. This is why I'm saying it's not really a power, the extra 15 minutes on any challenge.
No.
Because every time they get extra 15 minutes, Diana just stood there for 15 minutes going, and Heston was ready to help her. And then he sort of looks at her and goes, well, your time's up and you haven't picked what you're doing, so bye.
Yeah, that was no help.
How do you screw that up? And I really felt for Sarah because I love Sarah.
I like Sarah too, and I think she's going to win.
I've got my prediction for a final three. I sort of made it on Twitter the other day. My prediction for a final three is Sarah, Gaston, and Carly. I think that's my final three. I think they're the three strongest in the competition. There's a lot of strong cooks in the competition.
Indeed.
I think they're the strongest three. Then last night we had, so that was the first night where they were cooking on the banks of the river, which was weird in itself. And I thought that Gaston just quietly did a really good job with the water and doing a very, very Heston move.
Yes.
And incredibly.
It's like the whole like noise and smell and la-di-da. Yes.
Yeah. I wanted to smell like the Murray. And there were a few times when they were talking.
I want to smell the Murray when I'm eating.
Oh, no. And there were a few times.
Like the Yarra.
Well, there were a few times where they were talking about the Murray River, and they were talking about the Murray, all that fish, and they were talking about the mighty Murray that flows. And I would have done something which was basically like a trickle of sauce. So when they went, "What's that?" It's like, it's inspired by the Murray. Have you not been further downriver? No, this is a heavily salted dish. Yes, it's inspired by the Murray and its salinity. So, I wasn't necessarily a fan of that whole cook.
No.
And I also maintain that the amount of kingfish they've done this season, it's trolling Marco Pierre White. Has to be. But
he's annoyed with them now.
Well, that's why. That's why they're doing it this season, because there's no Marco this season. So because there's no Marco this season, I just like the idea that they're just trolling. And every week they're going to have an element which is, there's your fucking kingfish, Marco.
I doubt he's watching.
I don't think so either. And then last night we had the challenge with the silos, where we first saw what they're doing with these eliminated contestants, and the answer is they're making them stand there like morons.
It's it's kind of like bumps on a log there. Just wait over there.
And at the end of every challenge, they get the people who are still in to run to the bus and get back on the bus, and the people in black are just standing there.
They got a hitch.
Yeah, are they hitching? Have they seen Wolf Creek? This doesn't end well.
No.
So, and I like the idea too.
They're all still alive, so they're going all right.
I like the idea that Heston, of course, was on the bus when they went out there the first day. But after that, have you seen Heston get off that bus?
He's like, fuck this.
There's a helicopter behind the silos last night, for example, I swear. And everyone gets back on the bus and Heston's like, tomorrow at filming, and just goes and gets in the chopper. And George is like hanging off the bottom of it.
How cool were those silos, though? They were so cool.
Oh, the silos were highly impressive. What wasn't impressive, however, was Callan's.
Callan.
Now,
I'm so mad at Callan because I love Sam. We commented. You dragged him down, Callan.
Well, we commented on this the other week that I don't think I've seen anyone fall as fast as Callan.
No, he kind of really plummeted.
Well, we learned in this competition that all he can do is make granita. And last night, sure enough, at one point, we're there, and I was joking around when I was on the banks of the Murray River, and I was joking around. I literally was typing on Twitter, "It's amazing that Callan hasn't tried a granita yet." And as I hit send, he goes, "I'm making a granita." He's become, and again, I think it's the bubble you get in, but he's become a bit of a one-trick pony on the granita. The other contender, by the way, for falling off the edge of a cliff rapidly is Tamara. I don't know what's going on there, but she was flying for the first few weeks, and then the last two, she was eliminated and brought back the next night. And then since then, she's sort of just avoiding...
Just hanging on.
She's avoiding elimination by the barest of margins. I can't work it out for the life of me what's going on with her, but she's just suddenly plummeted. Like, I think she was fortunate that Jess didn't knock her over in the return challenge, because Jess cooked an amazing dish. And I think a large part of it too was that... I
think she was gypped.
Yeah, I think they decided they wanted Tamara back, and she just had a bad night. But it was the timing of that was interesting, that Tamara goes home and the next thing you know, they challenge to bring her back.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So tonight's episode...
I'm dubious.
So tonight's episode began on the planet Arrakis, the home of June, which was what the Salt Flats looked a hell of a lot like. If you've ever read the Frank Herbert books or seen the movie or the games, it just looked like the planet June.
It looked amazing, though. Like, I really want to go there.
If only there was some salt.
Yeah, if only.
If only the red team had some access to salt for their dessert.
It's like they weren't even surrounded by it.
Oh, it's fucking ridiculous. Anyway, we started with what I referred to as hats a go-go. Now they're getting more and more ridiculous by the day. It looked like Crocodile Dundee and a bunch of what we would refer to as colourful racing identities.
George looked like he maybe forgot his hat. Someone had their kid's hat in the back seat. They're like, "Oh, here, you can borrow this." George
is walking up singing "I Haven't Got a Hat" from that cartoon. But George looked a hell of a lot like a Punch and Judy extra. He had a really bright suit and a very ill-fitting hat. Or, again, he was Matilda's father out of Matilda.
And he was grumpy. He was so grumpy.
It had to be the circulation with the hat.
I reckon it was cutting right off up there.
I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to come straight out and say it. George was an arsehole tonight. I'm going to be controversial and just say it. Because he was. If you watch what he was doing, he wasn't just being tough George. He wasn't just being demanding George. He was being a downright arsehole. But this also brings us later on to one of my favourite moments of the series this year. In fact, it is my favourite moment of the series. And it's the moment that I'm now referring to as Eliza 1, George 0. So we'll come back to that.
Boss.
But she did a beautiful job. So the blue team, Ben, Eliza, Eloise, and Aram.
Yes.
So
you knew that was going to be the winning team, let's be honest.
Well, Eliza, for someone who didn't want to be captain, was really good at it.
She was amazing. I think she was the best so far.
I hope that Callan paid attention, because if you remember when Callan had to captain the team, he said nothing to anybody. She was really good at instruction. When they needed to cut things off the main, she was slicing things off the mains.
Yes. Which almost fucked them up, if we're honest.
But to be fair, what actually almost fucked them up was the potatoes, and that wasn't her cutting things off the menu for that reason.
No.
Somebody else failing to cook them. You had one job, Aram. Cook potatoes. One job. I've heard that accent. Look, I'm not making any judgments about people from that part of the world in terms of Ireland, etc. But if you can't cook potatoes, that visa, I tell you now, I am convinced you're overstaying your visa.
It's such a crime against potatoes, because how good are potatoes?
Exactly, you can't really screw that up. Although, and one of the things
you shouldn't be able to screw it up, but here we are.
Here we are. And one of the things, by the way, just on a side note on that, with not being able to screw up potatoes, one of the things, if you've seen on Twitter, one of the things that Christy retweeted that we're going to be doing once Christy's voice is back is, as an engagement present, my brother gave me today, he bought for $1, the Days of Our Lives cookbook.
Oh my God.
We're going to be reading recipes from the Days of Our Lives cookbook, because they are as amazingly bad as you expect.
Oh, God.
And I'm even going to start making some and Instagramming them, just so you can see these things in action. I've never read a cookbook like it. It's incredible.
Oh, God.
So that's something for the future. The blue team the blue team didn't need that, however, because the blue team came up with some really good ideas. They had their dishes very early on. Again, good leadership.
They did. That was great. That was their road to success at the beginning.
So they had salt-cured trout, and that was where the potatoes were. And I can't bring myself to say the next part of this.
Velouté?
Yeah, it's watercress velouté. John is weeping somewhere.
Hashtag blocked by John.
Yeah, I can't believe you got blocked by John. That's amazing.
I've been blocked by John, blocked by Miranda Devine.
Oh, you've got the double whammy. That's a proud moment. You need to get that put on business cards.
Especially Miranda Devine.
Pobjie, blocked by Miranda Devine.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's because I said she was on crack.
What's the point? I fail to see the issue.
She's on crack.
I fail to see the issue. I fail to see the issue. So, you don't do that in MasterChef. I mean, seriously, it doesn't go well.
The death sauce.
It really is.
But they got lucky. It didn't kill them, which is...
It was close. It maimed them a little bit. They were winged.
Yes, they were.
They were winged by it, but they didn't get killed by it. The main, however... We'll come back to the quality of the pork belly in a minute, but just the idea of pork belly, and they already had it.
You can't go, to me, you cannot go wrong with pork. Particularly pork belly. If you get that crackled just right, winner, 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 winner.
And that was their big stress there. And then the smoked cinnamon ice cream with what was originally going to be just a salted caramel sauce and veggie chips. Now that was a really interesting concept, and I liked the idea of those sort of veggie petals.
No, not me. No,
I like the idea.
Apple skin, and I hate apple skin.
You hate so you hate Miranda Devine and apple skin.
Yeah, I hate lots of things. When it's fresh, yes, but like cooked apple skin is just bleh.
Well, this goes back to the point you made on Twitter the other week, which I raised on the podcast, which was when they were doing the apples.
The baked apples.
And the idea of leaving the skin on for that. That was really risky. But then when we talked about it on the podcast, Christy was clever enough, because she's the brains of this operation, to point out that toffee apples normally have the skin left on them. So the idea,
but that's not a cooked apple. That's a fresh apple in sugar.
You are very right there. So,
thank you.
Red team. So red team: Tamara, Nicole, Michelle, and Carly. Now
they were just a disaster from the start.
Nicole was the captain, but realistically,
she's lovely, but
realistically, Carly was doing all the work.
Yeah.
She was bossing everyone around. She was calling out the instructions. Nicole was trying.
I kind of forgot who was captain for a minute. I'm like, oh, yeah, Carly's captain. I'm like, no, she's not wearing captain apron.
So what the red team came up with was trout with pickled beetroot and beetroot toast with fennel, and then nothing else.
Didn't they do the beetroot toast in the last challenge?
Yeah, they did, but they came up with the beetroot toast at the same time as the trout and the pickled beetroot. But then they didn't come up with anything else. They came up with nothing else. They had no ideas. Nobody had planned ahead. Whereas by the time the Reds thought about the idea of what they should be doing for the rest of their courses, the blue team had already had time to knock things off their menu.
Yeah.
And the idea of the pork belly was already scored by this point.
Yeah.
Ben had already made the ice cream. They were already onto the trout for the entree. They were flying.
They were miles ahead.
Now, at this point, they cut to Nicole, who said that my priority is to keep my team focused. And at this point, they showed all four of them abandoning the trout entree and going to the pantry. All of them.
They were all focused on the pantry.
As Christy pointed out, they looked like 5-year-olds in a soccer field. They were just all going to the ball. They all went to we've got to focus on this. We've got to work out our main and dessert. Everybody to the pantry. But the entree to be made. No. Everyone to the... So they all stood in the pantry and went, I don't know, what are we going to do?
It was really painful to watch.
But no one could make a decision. And they all just dithered in the pantry. And meanwhile, I'm like, surely one of you could have been out there working on the entree.
Yes.
Maybe.
Exactly. It was making me stabby.
And that's fair enough too. Whereas I said Eliza was...
Someone be doing something. You don't just all stand in the same place.
As I said, what Eliza decided to do that I liked when she culled things was she didn't put it up to a how about we. She just went, we're dropping this, we're dropping this, we're dropping this, we're dropping this. We don't have time for it.
Which is
move on.
What a good leader does. Because I just learnt that and I just did a test on it. So I'm all about the leader.
You did a test on we love the leader.
We love the leader.
We love leader. But I think it was really interesting too because Nicole was the one jumping up and down, putting a hand up to be the leader. And they sort of had to convince Eliza to do it. And Eliza was very reluctant, but once she decided she was doing the role, she really threw herself into it.
She nailed it.
And she was very, the interesting thing, and this is not a shot at either of them, but I thought that both teams in this challenge were carrying spares. I thought that for the blue team, Aram sort of looked a little bit lost. When he couldn't boil the water for the potatoes, he just didn't really know what to do. And then when he did do the potatoes, they were so salty that he went, I can't put these on a plate.
Yeah.
And then you didn't really see much more of Aram apart from plating up.
No. And then Mish.
Well, George actually said in one of his rants, what exactly are you doing? and it's very rare, even when George is ranty, you don't see him just turn around to somebody in the kitchen and go, what exactly are you doing?
Yeah.
The answer was she was working on dessert before entree had gone out, but that's not here or there.
Yeah.
So they then picked their main. but then decided to ignore dessert.
Yeah.
And then it was duck, and I like duck. I love duck, in fact. I'm a huge fan of duck. But
I'm not too fussed on it.
But the idea of the duck breast for that many people in that quantity, yeah, it was a bit tricky. And then the idea of corn 3 ways. Now, I know they went, the popcorn's a really clever way of incorporating the air. I thought it was a bit of cheating, personally.
Yeah, but how many ways can you incorporate air? Especially into a main dish.
As you saw, the blue team incorporated air by just leaving a lot of air around what they did for the entree. That was the incorporation. I would have literally just served them a plate. Actually,
but they've just said, we're out in the air, air got on it. There's the air.
Now I've talked about this a few times when we mentioned it in the last series of Bake Off when James did the oops, I dropped the ice cream, which he didn't steal from oops, I dropped the lemon tart. I may have spoken to James about this, and you didn't steal it, James. I do agree with you. But what you should have done was you should have stolen, in this case, from Massimo Bottura, and you should have just done his air-whipped cheese. These big foamy air-whipped cheese, and gone, there you go, there's your entree. Mm-hmm. Heston would have loved it. Heston would have just gone, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. Full marks. So you should have, at this point, ripped off Massimo Bottura. No one did. Disappointing.
No, but, Now... You'd had time to think about it.
Now, I thought with the petals, what I did think with the petals, though, and the leaves, was that I thought that it was Gaston showing that he understands Heston, which no one else has really shown the fact. Even Callan hasn't shown the fact, even though he keeps on saying, they kept on going, we've got a mini Heston here. I'm like, no, you don't. Yes. You really don't.
No.
But they're like, nobody's shown they understand Heston Blumenthal except Gaston, who knows what he likes. He's the first one. Like Gaston, I always remember that Heston did that one where he redid Little Chef in the UK. Where he went to the roadside diner Little Chefs and redid their menu completely and did things where it was he gave them a bowl of different scented air with their meal because he's Heston Blumenthal and therefore does wanky stuff. But this is what Heston does. And so far Gaston's shown that he knows what he does, all this weird stuff. And everyone else is just plating normal.
Yeah.
You've got to play up in Heston Week.
Oh, definitely.
That's what they're looking for. George wants to show off that he knows Heston Blumenthal. The best way to do that is to do something weird. So I did ask the question, though, and I'll put it back to you. I know they would have been salty, but they were trying to work out. George was yelling at Gaston at one point about the petals and going, have you not got them drying? Now, they were like, I don't know how I'm going to dry these petals. And I'm sitting there thinking, you're in the middle of a salt flat. I'm just going to put it out there. If you need to remove the moisture, I know how you can do it.
Yeah, salt.
If only there was some salt around.
If only.
It just seemed like, for me, I know it would have made them salty, but again, it was a challenge you needed to incorporate salt, and they were chips, so you could have done it.
True.
I'm sitting there thinking, why did you just use the salt to get a bit more dryness into those petals? That would have made sense.
Yeah, then they would have dried out quicker in the oven and some of them wouldn't have gone that really, really dark.
Well, the other reason
brown.
The other reason that happened, though, we're about to get to, which is where George walks into the Blue Kitchen. Now, George is one of the reasons why those petals and the sort of leaves actually burnt, is because he yelled and basically demanded that Gaston get off doing those and come over and do something with the entree. And so he left them as he put them in the oven. He left them and he said, I went back to them and I've been busy doing other things and I come back and they're burnt.
So George is to blame. Saboteur!
And then at this point, Eliza just decides that enough is enough. And George comes in and just starts laying down the law about you haven't done this and you're not doing this properly, you're not doing this properly. And she just turns around and goes, no, it's going to work. We've got this under control. And my heart swirled.
Oh, she was so boss.
It was a thing of beauty because George didn't quite know what to say.
He kind of just scurried away.
Yeah, like he was
great.
And then he tried a second dig and Eliza basically batted it back a second time and basically told him to fuck off.
I do love Eliza.
But yeah, I love the fact that Eliza just suddenly, she's been very quiet. I made a comment on Sunday night that she was almost becoming the Trent of the series now because she hasn't been featured on camera a hell of a lot in the last couple of weeks. She sort of vanished into the background, much like Trent did. And
he's come back tonight, though.
Tonight, she just full force. At the same time as they're making this bold stand against George, the red team decided they're making chocolate ganache. There are things in this competition I never understand. There are things I don't get. It's when somebody gets given a label that they don't necessarily deserve, and all of the talk about how good Mish is with desserts. She likes making dessert.
Chocolate ganache does not make a dessert.
She would prefer to make desserts. She likes making desserts. She enjoys making desserts. That doesn't mean she's spectacular at them.
No.
Callan, same thing.
It wasn't tonight.
Callan loves making desserts, thinks desserts are wonderful, thinks desserts are brilliant. He makes granita a lot. It's they go, we've come to expect more out of you. Why? We haven't seen examples of it.
We've seen granita.
Yeah, we've seen lots of granita. Now, speaking of, going back to their outfits for a moment, at the point where Matt walked into the kitchens and yelled at the two captains, "Look who's coming," while wearing that outfit, I thought he was warning everyone the cops were coming to warn him off the racetrack. Because he really looked like, again, he'd been an illegal bookmaker. He may have fixed racehorses. He may have been involved in the fine cotton scandal. And next thing you know, he's like, quick, it's the cops. But no, it was all of the people who were coming out here to eat. And I don't think people in the kitchen particularly gave a shit at this point. Like, they do the big, look who's coming. It's your people coming to eat. And everyone's supposed to go, ooh. And they're now so far into the competition that when they say that, they look up and just go, oh, yeah, cool.
Oh, we know.
That's what we're doing. It's
like shit to do.
It's like when you now look at when they bring in the chef for the contest in the kitchen. And at the start of the series, they're all really engaged and involved in pretending they know who that person is. And by about this point of the competition, like I'll guarantee you next week, if they bring in one of these young unknown chefs, it won't be that enthusiastic. It'll just be okay. Cool. Yeah, it's some dude. Well, Harry from last year's MasterChef tweeted out very early on in the competition, "Oh, look, it's the moment we all pretend we know who that person is." And you're like, of course, because you're not going to know like the latest hip chef from the little boutique cafe around the corner.
No, of course not. And it's stupid to make people think that they do have a clue.
Yeah, exactly.
We know they don't know who that is.
The thing is, it's not at this point of what they're supposed to be, which is still amateur cooks.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have to know everybody in the food game. It's not their industry yet. They're trying to get into the industry, but it's not their industry yet. That's why they've got little things like Ben, sales manager, right? Because it doesn't say Ben, professional chef.
Exactly.
So I think it's a bit ridiculous to expect they know whoever. I mean, there are people you should, like Heston Blumenthal. If you don't know who Heston is, what are you doing on MasterChef?
Yeah, exactly.
If Marco Pierre White comes back and walks into the kitchen, you know who that is. It's the guy who's going to stab Matt Preston.
Indeed.
When Shannon Bennett comes in, it's the guy who could potentially replace George Columbaris one day. That you know who these people are. Now at this point, Eliza made the call to scrap the potatoes, and then the judges complained that she should have gone with oversalted potatoes.
Yes, but if they were on there, they would have gone, oh, that's too salty.
Far too salty.
You know that.
They would
never. You heard George go, oh, my God.
Well, you heard George picked up one of the potatoes and ate it, and he made that ugh as he walked away sound.
Yeah.
They complained about the fact they weren't there.
Yeah, idiot. If they'd been on there, you would have bitched about it.
And I did like the fact that when the the red team presented their entree, George goes, "It's like monochrome," and then explains what monochrome means. Thanks,
For
George.
all the stupid people.
Thanks, George. And at this point, I need to quote a certain. Let's just refer to him as Ben P, shall we?
Oh yeah, I know that
Who
guy.
tweeted out one of the lines of the night, which was, "Why aren't the diners wearing glasses? It's all a lie." Because they're like, you have to wear glasses. You're going to go blind if you don't wear glasses. And then they're all at the table and not a single person at the table is wearing glasses. It's like, did you just want them to wear stupid stuff?
Probably.
I mean, I've seen that show. It's Cutthroat Kitchen. And, you know, you've got to cook inside a submarine and all sorts of other stupid stuff. Just change the name of the show from MasterChef to Cutthroat Kitchen. Not that hard to do.
Cutthroat MasterChef Kitchen. Okay.
So after the first challenge, they complained there wasn't enough on the blue team's plate, although I found it unusual that they said, these are all real foodies. They'll be complaining about the fact there's not a lot on that plate. No. If you're talking about the fact they're foodies, they'll be expecting some small, dainty portion.
Yes, duh, hello.
That made no sense to me.
No.
So they're not, you know, again, if they're eating at a local Italian restaurant, they're expecting a massive bowl of pasta.
Yes.
If they're eating at a fancy Italian restaurant, they expect 3 bits of ravioli. You know, that's what you expect.
Exactly. I'm like, what? Don't be stupid.
It doesn't seem to make any sense.
No.
So the blue team got smashed for just not putting a lot on the plate and not putting over-salted potatoes on the plate. The red team got, this is wonderful.
Yes.
So you're like, ooh, this could be. And then the red team undercooked their duck.
They did.
And they went into panic mode. But then somehow, when they put it on the plate, that little bit of extra time in the oven, which you would think wouldn't necessarily finish the duck, did.
Did, apparently.
It just, the timing just seemed out on that. I couldn't quite work it out. So that was duck with corn puree, popcorn, and the charred corn. And they had the baby corn things. It went really well.
Yeah.
You know, they were like, it's the greatest baby corn I've ever tasted. And I'm sitting there thinking, I don't have a ranking system in my head for all the baby corn I've ever eaten.
No.
Am I missing something? I mean, you have more experience in the food industry than I. Is there a ranking?
I haven't had a lot of baby corn.
Is there a ranking somewhere? Is there a chart? Is it like a Michelin star chart, but for baby corn?
Not that I know of, but
kernels.
I've never eaten in a Michelin restaurant, so no idea.
I'm wondering if anyone out there knows of the corn scale, let me know, because it seems like it's a thing. Then the blue team, that crackling. That's all I have. That crackling
is life, basically.
Oh, I am a bandit for crackling. One of the things my mother does amazingly well is her pork crackling, and I may have inherited that skill.
That's a good skill.
It's a great skill to have. The first time I made roast pork with the crackling for Christy, she was like, This is great. This is genuinely great. So she was thrilled. At that point, I think was when she decided that she'd made the right call. Was when the crackling was crispy.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the moment where it was like, okay, look, if he does propose to me down the track, I'll say yes.
And she did.
Yeah, well, actually, to be perfectly honest, in a moment of candor here, ladies and gentlemen, what she actually said to me was, "You fucking nutbag." So, exact quote. And look, to be honest with us, that makes sense. That just sums us up in a quote. So the blue team, they suddenly realised they didn't have enough jus. How do you get to the end and suddenly realise you don't have enough?
Yeah, like she gave I say she, but because I forgot her name.
Eloise.
Eloise. She made like 2 pressure cookers full, and she thought that would, she was going to make more than enough. There would be ample jus. There would be enough jus for Manu.
We're rhyming.
That's like probably the best thing I've ever said.
That's a shout out to Christy right there. That's a shout out. Christy represent. With us in spirit, always in our hearts.
But then she was like, "Oh, there's only like 2 cups of jus."
I actually thought that wasn't a bad thing at that point in time before they judged it and went, "This is really good," because my thing is that I don't like when they ruin pork belly with a sauce. The crackling is, to use a MasterChefian term, the pork crackling is the hero.
Yes.
I feel dirty saying that, but it's MasterChef. You've got to say it once.
You better go wash yourself when you're finished.
I will. I will rub that hero off. Oh, I feel horrible. But you don't want to screw up pork with like sauce. So no. I actually thought it was a good thing because they went. But the other thing is too, it was the idea of leave them wanting more.
Yes.
They went, the sauce is really good. It was great. It was just enough.
Yeah. Though I'm not sure if it's like the same as dessert, but we learned at school that it's like 50 mils of sauce to a dish, which is what they had, which is ample.
Which is why when they said, this is what we've got, which is about 50 mils each, that's why Eliza said, perfect.
Yeah.
And then Eliza went, no, it's not perfect, it's under.
No.
No, you don't want. I don't like it when the dish is swimming in it.
No, I hate that because like they also had the cauliflower puree, which would have just like gone all manky and gross, like just floating around in this pool of jus. So I think Eloise just panicked a little bit.
Yeah, it's because she'd been working on it for forever. It was sort of her pride and joy, and when she drained it out, it wasn't what she thought it was. Yeah. But I mean, that's one of the reasons why people ask for sauce on the side a lot of the time rather than on the meal because you're worried they're going to kill it.
Yes.
Now, this brings us to dessert. We're sort of 1-1. So 1-1 for each team.
Yeah.
The red team's ganache suddenly splits. Now, I don't want to be that person, but you probably could have called that from a mile away.
Yeah.
It's not the right conditions.
Oh, God, no.
Again, with what you have to do and...
Plus, also, like, to me, ganache just doesn't make a dessert. Like, it should not be a main component.
And how do you not just do a salted caramel sauce for something when you have to do salt? I know that what everyone out there is saying when they're listening to it, it's salted caramel, so obvious. And the answer is you better fucking believe it's obvious, but let's be bloody obvious. They want you to do something with salt.
Yeah.
Just do
something. But I
caramel.
feel like that was a chance to like push the boat out a little bit and do something different rather than just go, oh yeah, salted caramel. Like it's not
praline or
do something else.
Yeah. But no. We instead we decided to do the infamous chef online who does the big sprinkle of salt over the top. Yeah, we decided to be him
as well. It's like, well, first of all, you're doing a ganache. And instead of like incorporating the salt in your ganache, it's like, let's
on top of it.
Duck it on the top.
And then pistachio underneath. And the thing is, the pistachio would have taken the saltiness away.
Well, they could have also put the salt in the pistachios.
Well, of course they could.
The pistachios, make it a salted pistachio crumb.
And then they added the citrus.
Which, sorry, but I fucking hate chocolate and orange together. You know that's my pet hate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm
How many times have we talked about it? It makes me so cross.
And anybody who's listened to any of your Great Australian or Great British Bake Off things knows full well this is a pet hate. Yeah. So this is not a recent thing, people. Go back and listen through the archives. You'll hear a lot of Beck ranting about it's chocolate and orange, go away.
Yes, yes.
Then the blue team, however. Now, Ben retains his title as King of Ice Cream. And it's a bold move. We've talked about this before. Ice cream on MasterChef is a very bold move.
Well, he stole that crown from Pete, who I loved Pete, and I'm so sad Pete's gone.
He did steal that crown from Pete a little bit.
He stole that crown a little bit from Pete. Well,
however, that crown fits very well on his brow.
It does.
So it's not like he stole a crown that doesn't fit.
Yes.
It's not like Gaston stole a crown that didn't belong to him. What a guy. What a guy. So Gaston made that, but then realised that because he'd been dragged from other things because George was yelling,
Yes.
they
He forgot the sauce.
didn't make the sauce. At which point, Eloise became the hero that we didn't necessarily deserve.
She did. She took the baton and she
But
ran with it.
we needed her.
We did need her.
And what a move.
Ah, genius.
Salted butterscotch sauce in a pressure cooker. And by the way, George even said to her, if this works, you're a genius. and she opened the lid up and gone, here we go, we find out. And she's like, oh my God, it worked. Oh my God, it worked. And then from that moment on,
I think I held my breath for a little bit though when she took that lid off. I was like,
yeah, I was terrified. But it worked. And then I think when George mentioned the fact that she made that sauce in the pressure cooker,
yes,
I actually think that's what got them over the line.
Yeah.
Because Heston was just impressed with the technique.
Yeah.
And
but also,
they had a problem with the leaves. They didn't like the leaves. They thought the leaves were inconsistent. But the ganache and split.
Yeah, the red team had 2 shit dishes.
They did. And I think that the leaves could have gone either way at that point in time, but the ice cream was wonderful. And again, the second that they mentioned that salted butterscotch sauce was done in a pressure cooker, they were home.
Yeah.
And I think I said to you before they did the elimination that, first of all, if they get eliminated, first of all, George screwed the blue team over by dragging Gaston around the kitchen. And secondly, I think I may have mentioned, and again, love you dearly, but it's Aram's fault. Look, Aram, you had one job. Not a shot. It's not a shot. But all you had to do was cook potatoes, and there's Irish heritage there. I can hear it in your voice. So what we learnt tonight, I think, is lack of salt plus ganache equals elimination.
It does.
So it was an interesting episode. I don't quite know. I don't quite know if I've agreed with the theme, because I know what they're going for with the elements, but the element was air, and what the element actually ended up being was salt.
Yes.
And
that was dodgy.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, they didn't say it was water, earth, salt, fire. It was air.
That's not the elements.
Yeah, so I think...
I don't know. I think they've kind of like shot themselves in the foot trying to do this whole...
Elements
thing when, it was...
It's Heston. I was half waiting for it to become minerals, and they had to like crunch up geodes. It's Heston. Would you put it past him?
No, I guess not. No.
But this is the thing. I think that they struggled to come up with the concept of air tonight.
Yes.
They couldn't feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord. But tomorrow night with fire, I mean, look.
Well, fire is easy.
Gee, on a
if
cooking
you can't do
show,
fire, then there's something wrong.
on a cooking show, I wonder how you do fire. But that was sort of the episode, and I think it'll be interesting to see then what they decide to do with elimination. Because I mean,
they will have them have all of the elements.
Are they going to have? Well, my thing is, are they going to do then? I'm a bit worried they're going to then do 2 challenges on Thursday and do 1 elimination and 1 for the last 2 surviving in terms of immunity. Which, if they do that, it means it's going to be an episode that's about 9.5 hours long.
Oh, God.
And I don't want another 9.5 hour episode. That first one nearly killed me. The podcast would have to be in like 9 parts. We'll just break it up. But I don't know where they're going with this in terms of, because they just keep on eliminating people. And you're all in an elimination challenge. What is there going to be like? What's going to happen? I don't know. So we'll see what happens after this tomorrow night. Some of these dishes look very Heston.
Yes. Well, it is Heston week. You kind of have to have it that way.
Kind of look very Heston. So any other things that you've picked up from the episode?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, no, I think it's sort of a very thorough coverage. Obviously, it's been fantastic to have you on. Anything you've got to plug apart from just your general greatness?
No.
No,
I
we'll
don't
just
do
plug,
anything but go to school these days.
we'll just plug your general greatness, and you've got an amazing Instagram.
Thank you.
So you want to
Yeah,
give?
you can see on my school, like some of the stuff that we're doing at school, I post on there as well. And I'm about to start some work placement after the holidays, which will be super exciting.
So no, that will be spectacular. I'm looking forward to it. I always enjoy your Instagram.
You're so kind.
It doesn't make me feel hungry at all.
Oh,
And
to work harder.
there's going to be an in-depth order coming your way very shortly off the back of that. So I highly recommend it. So anyway, obviously we look forward to the return of Christy. But
Yes.
it's been a very able replacement. Thank you very much tonight, Beck. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
No problem.
See you soon, Christy.
And we'll get you back on as well then when Christy's feeling much better too. Because I like having our chats with all three of us. It works for me.
Yes, I would love to. I've missed Christy. And I'm about to be on 3 weeks holiday.
Yay!
So I shall be much more available.
Indeed. We look forward to more of that. So that's obviously been Beck. I've been Chris. This has been the Washing Up Podcast, and we'll catch you all later.
Bye.